is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Warrior Parent Podcast. We are so happy that you are joining us today. Today, we're talking with Heather Gray, a functional diagnostic nutritionist and bioenergetics practitioner. She specializes in supporting clients with chronic and complex illnesses such as Lyme's disease, mold toxicity, and autoimmune diseases. She has over 32 years of personal experience, and so she understands the struggles of living with these conditions, and she's dedicated to helping others find relief. She helps her clients get to the root cause of their symptoms and helps them take control of their health journey, which is an approach that is not only effective, but it's also very empowering. So thank you, Heather, for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yay. Well, we just had a little warm up with Heather and we're dropping a few bombs, F-bombs, etc. just a forewarning. So there may be some wild language on the
comparing
podcast.
Childhood traumas, like playing poker with our
it
trauma.
calls for an F-bomb. Yeah. Seriously. Can't do it without it.
Yes.
Although I'm going to be a pain in the ass right off the bat, if that's okay.
Yeah. I know what she's going to say.
Marci said Lyme's, and
yes,
it's never Lyme's disease. It's always Lyme. It's never Lyme's.
Just one Lyme, not multiple Lymes. I too am a Lyme sufferer, so I should have known that. But right on. Thank you. I stand corrected.
God bless you. I appreciate it.
I knew she was gonna say, because I was gonna say Marci.
Debbie's watching me twitch.
Anyway, well, I am super excited to have Heather here. We met in the podcast collaboration group where we've met so many people from all over the world, and Heather's just one of those amazing people. And we chose Heather because she is the Lyme boss, and I had Lyme disease. Marci's had Lyme disease, so a lot of what she speaks to is around not only Lyme but lots of other autoimmune issues. And so with that, I want Heather to give a little background, because I want to get into exactly what Lyme is, where it comes from, all that sort of thing, and a little bit about how she came to be the expert. So Heather.
Yeah, absolutely. I usually start off by telling people I was basically born full of shit. Right? Like, how many of you can relate? I was like 4 years old, sitting on the potty so long that my feet would fall asleep. Right. And that kind of began my journey of let's throw Band-Aids at symptoms. The doctors were like throwing thick oils down my throat, giving me stool softeners, but nobody was trying to figure out why this 4-year-old was so constipated. Hindsight's 2020. That was the year my uncle committed suicide. Right. And so kicked off early childhood trauma, which probably kicked into gear my autoimmune of celiac. And I was eating a standard American diet, right? So the SAD diet. So, being raised by addict alcoholics, it was always like a landmine in my household. There's a lot of anger. So a lot of stuff gets, stuck in the gut. You get really anxious gut, as a kid. And, growing up, I also, looking back, I had genetic issues with my detox pathways. And I know darn well that some of those homes I was living in when I was younger had mold issues. So that causes brain inflammation, gut inflammation. And so by the time I was a teenager, when I was pretty angry and reactive, I think my nickname was BA on the basketball court because I was always the one throwing elbows. And
you a baller too? Me too.
Yeah, used to be. I know it's hard to tell height on Zoom. I wasn't tall enough to actually play any good leagues. So it was just mostly high school, but if I was taller, I would have.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, but then when I became, when I was 13, my mom divorced my dad for his brother.
Oh,
So she's like a couple Jerry Springer shows all on her own.
wow.
My
So it was
goodness.
just like this perfect storm, right?
Yeah.
Of being a perfect host. So then when I got bit by a tick
Mm.
when I was 13,
Mhm.
that's when I developed Lyme disease. And
Yeah.
so many people, it's so sad that they think, oh, I was just fine one day and then all of a sudden got bit and I was sick. Typically there was some sort of something going on in the background, right?
Yeah.
Symptoms that they've ignored for a long time, they thought were normal because they were common, which they never are normal just because they're common.
Yeah.
So diet or stress or, toxic accumulation, I laugh, people talk about having a detox bucket. I actually had a detox thimble, so that when I got bit by that tick, it just overloaded everything. And I
Yes.
got Lyme disease. I got
Yeah.
the co-infections that came with it.
Yeah. Hey, I have a question about that. So I also was finally diagnosed with Lyme, and we'll talk about the diagnosis of that in a while down the road. But my question is, do you think you necessarily had to have been bitten by a tick?
No, you can get it from mosquitoes, you can get it from bed bugs, you can get it from fleas, you can get it sexually transmitted. It's congenital. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
because
I
you
passed it along to my kid when I was pregnant.
yeah. So
Mm.
in my case, I got all the things. So it wasn't just Lyme, but I had, chronic fatigue, like everything was showing up at the same time, but I had no bullseye. So the bullseye is the tick bite that everyone talks about. So when I called the CDC to report it, yeah, oh yeah, don't, I'm not going to get you started, but when I called the CDC and said, the first question they ask you, did you have the bullseye? And I said no. They're like, okay, hang up. They just like hung up the phone on me. Yeah.
30% of people, only 30%
Yes.
of people will get a
Yes.
Mhm.
bullseye rash. I was not one of them. I did
Yes.
not get a
Yeah.
bullseye either. And
So
I picked that tick out of my belly, so I know when I was bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
so my only thought was that my mom had passed away young, but she had lots of crazy chronic issues, and the only
And
thing I can think of is that she passed it along to me, right?
yeah,
Like, and who knows if she ever had a tick bite or if it was her mom. So the question is the around, the in vitro stuff, because
yeah,
it's like,
congenital.
yeah,
Yep.
right.
Yep.
So anyway, okay, so I wanted to clarify that. So I'm
Yeah,
sorry I interrupted
absolutely.
you,
Absolutely.
but go on, because I think that this is a misnomer for a lot of people, right? Like, oh well, I didn't have a bite, so this can't exist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's a, bloodborne infection. So how is any other bloodborne infection? And it just seemed like common sense to me for the longest time. I'm like, well, why on earth can only this one bloodborne, be traveled this way? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. You should be able to get it any other way that you get blood transmitted diseases. So,
Mhm.
right,
and
right.
they are starting to have more and more research, but it is still very, I mean, if you think about it, so the CDC, sorry, rolls eyes. They just recognized chronic Lyme disease as a disease last year. So the
Yes,
disease that I've had since I was 13 years old, I'm now 46, just got
Mhm.
recognized by the CDC. So hence why my eye rolling. And even then, they've kind of gone back on their language to make it a little softer. So it's
yes,
kind of a weird gray area. So no, there's still a lot of misnomers about there
yeah,
around Lyme
Mhm.
disease. And
yeah.
it's part of the reason why I do what I do.
Yeah. Well, I was at the CDC because as I mentioned, my mother passed away and had been very sick at the time. So I was there because they were doing a lot of congenital testing. We have this aorta thing that runs in the family. And so through that process, while I was there, I'm like, I'm going to go to the head of the CDC at Mayo Clinic. I mean, even though I'd had all this treatment and all these things and was in a wheelchair for several years, like all the things, he said to me, well, honey, you didn't really have Lyme disease, right? I'm like, okay, well then what did I have? He says you had chronic fatigue. I'm like, okay, well, thank you.
I'd like to chop his balls off.
Yeah.
I get so sick of being I swear, if you look up the technical term of ghost lighting, you'll see a picture of a Lyme disease patient because I think
Yeah.
that's where being gaslit, oh my gosh,
Gaslighting.
started.
Yeah.
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 Like I can't even tell you how many times on I've been gaslit by the medical community, especially by, the older white males that, they know everything and you can't tell them anything.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Oh, yeah.
Well, and then speaking specifically about the test, so what I learned, because going through all this, I had doctor friends who were trying to help me. They really understood that she's not just making this stuff up. Like she's really, really sick. And so I learned through a group in the Bay Area that the test that you take really only tells you about 4 different types of Lyme, right? So if you have a variation of Lyme that's not identified by a specific test, it will come up negative,
There's
right?
there's a lot of issues with testing. So it is a stealthy little bastard, and it
Mm.
likes to shut your immune system down. And
Yeah.
so if you've had it for a really long time, it's really gotten your immune system shut down. So when a lot of these labs are looking for that autoimmune marker, it's not going to see it, right? Because it's been shut down. So there's one issue that they're having problems with appropriate Lyme testing. The other one is that, yes, there are many different strands, although like Vibrant, their tick-borne 2.0 test a lot of different strands and co-infections.
They're getting better.
So that's getting better. I personally, I do a Cour intake form. It's like a 600 questions intake form, and it kind of helps me tease out of whether it's Lyme or mold or co-infections or heavy metals or parasites, leaky gut, because a lot of them can mimic and look like each other. So sometimes it can be really hard to tease it out and figure out what it is that you're dealing with. And the testing for this stuff can get really expensive.
Yes.
So instead of wasting somebody's money, a lot of times I'll start off with that intake form, and then Horowitz has a free intake form online. And so those two together, if they're popping hot on both, then I'm like, if it looks like a duck, right? Walks like a duck.
Right.
Let's save your money and let's work towards treatment options instead of throwing your wad right at labs. But they're, like I said, Vibrant labs I really like. I got mine originally from a live blood analysis, which can be kind of controversial, but it's where they take a drop of blood, they put it on a slide, throw it up on a screen, blow it up. You can see all kinds of crazy things. And they're like, oh, there's some undigested food, which shouldn't be in your blood. So look, you've got a leaky gut. And ooh, look at this little colony here. There's some candida. And then you'd see this little corkscrew thing kind of swim by, and they're like, oh, there's your Lyme disease, And so for the longest time, I wanted to do live blood analysis, but I've always been a remote practitioner. And so it didn't make sense to have to do something that, in office that, I don't have an office. So, but I've always found live blood to be absolutely fascinating. But yeah, there's a lot of issues with testing with Lyme, unfortunately. It's getting better. It really is.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more. I know you, being the practitioner that you are, you work a lot around root cause, right? And so we talked about one of them, which is trauma, right? Like childhood trauma. Marci and I do a lot of work around childhood trauma and ACEs. I don't know if you're familiar with the ACE test. So
of course.
Yeah, I'm 10. You must be close.
I don't remember what my number was. I just know that the higher the number, the more, the higher the percentage of getting autoimmune diseases and other issues, chronic illness when you're older in life. So I was collecting, like I said, 3 by the time I decided to say, okay, time to turn this around.
I don't
I'm like, enough, I'm done.
Yeah. In fact, we had an assemblyman, Marci, that we interviewed.
Yeah, California assemblyman.
Who was trying to use the ACE test in schools to help deal with stress and anxiety and all of the things that all of the kids are going through right now, right?
Like, absolutely.
Can you imagine, that Pandora's box? So of course, he's trying to get this open, and all the rest of them are like, no, that means we don't actually have to do something.
Right. We actually have to be compassionate and healers. Yeah, no, it's just like that Oprah Winfrey book. Instead of asking, what's wrong with you, start asking the question, what happened to you?
Yes.
Right. Neither one of you is named Karen, but I've got a PSA against Karens these days, because I tell people no healthy person acts like a Karen, right? So if someone's acting like a Karen, can, show them some compassion, because how shitty do they have to feel inside to act that way on the outside, right? I know when I'm being a Karen, it's because I feel like like I've been sleep deprived lately from sleep apnea, and holy
Yeah.
shit, my inner Karen has been screaming at me lately. Like, I've been
Yes.
so judgy again. I've been condescending. I've been short with people. And I'm like, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's Heather sleep deprived. That's, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. PSA,
So,
be nice to the Karens.
yeah. So sleep is the other one, right? So you talked about root cause. So you talked about mold, cavitations, and perhaps sleep
Sleep
apnea. So
apnea. Those are
yeah.
the
So
three.
speak about that a little bit. Each one of them
So
more specifically.
they are huge barriers to health. And like I was, like most, God bless them, Lyme literate doctors, LLMDs. It's amazing that we have them because they speak a little different language than traditional MDs. But sad part is they're still using that same methodology of, you have a disease, here's your treatment, and we're not focusing on anything else. And a
Right.
strong, large percent of people aren't getting better because they're not looking into these lifestyle factors, mindset factors, trauma, or like the three barriers to health, which are mold. If you're living in mold, that thing, it's insidious about what it does to your immune system, to your whole body. It causes the inflammation. I remember getting so much better in my Lyme journey, and then I hit a wall, and I couldn't get over it until I got out of mold and started addressing mold. The other one is cavitations. There's a certain way that our dental industry, not much better than Western med, the way they were taught to take out root canals and wisdom teeth, they leave something behind. I have to remember, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it leaves it open to infection. And if you think about it, now you've got an infection that's enclosed in your jaw, right? This is a very vascular area. So all the blood flow to your brain causes cognitive issues, and it scatters your troops. So if your body's trying to fight off one constant infection, it doesn't have any other resources to fight off Lyme or COVID or the cold or the flu. So your troops are scattered. So you got to rule out cavitations. And then the third one is sleep apnea, because if you are not getting enough oxygen at night when you sleep to your brain, no supplement in the world, no diet in the world can overcome the damage, the brain damage that's happening at night while you sleep.
So those are a lot of the things that you speak about with root cause. So let's flip it a little bit and talk more on the well, we can't prevent what already happened to us, but if those listening are wanting to have healthier lifestyles and to avoid getting to this place of having autoimmune, what would that look like? What is a healthy, I mean, talk about supplements, talk about food, talk about water, talk about air, talk about all the things that we're surrounded in,
So
right?
in FDN, they have what's called a dress for success model, and it's diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. And notice how supplementation is at the end of that line. So even if you're working with an acupuncturist or a functional practitioner, but they want to start with supplements and address nothing else, run, because you're just going to end up with a bunch of expensive pee, right? If you're not, it's no different than a doctor, yeah, it's a little healthier than a prescription,
Right.
but it's still not helping get to that root cause. So, dialing in those lifestyle pieces are huge. And when it comes to the trauma, so like this was the last piece that I had to dial in, and I started dialing it in right around 2020, go figure. I kept relapsing, right? So I was like, I'd get better and then I'd relapse, and then I'd get better and I'd relapse. And in the Lyme world, even in the autoimmune world, I hear, oh, I just have an autoimmune flare. Oh, my Lyme I'm just flaring. Like it's a normal thing. And of course, me being me, I'm like, there's something going on here. Let's dig deeper. And I remember asking to the universe, it's like, what's my next step? And then somehow the book, The Body Keeps Score.
Oh, yes.
Holy shit, was that book triggering? Like, I am ugly crying on the couch. My husband's like, what the hell are you reading? I'm like, this little girl and her dad. He's like, no. But it was the first time that I had heard about like trauma getting stuck in the nervous system, right? Keeping you stuck in fight or flight, and instead of rest and digest. So that whole parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system retraining, right? So me being me, I jumped right in. Like most people would like stick their toe in the water and maybe try some neurofeedback or some breath work. No, I went straight to ayahuasca.
Oh,
I like
atta girl.
processed
Atta
40
girl.
years of mother shit in one night. Like I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah.
But it really opened up the door. So I actually did quite a few different types of psychedelics over the past couple of years. A
Mhm.
lot of breath work, a lot of somatic experiencing work. Oh, what else? Red light therapy, neurofeedback, cold therapy, because that was me, right? I was that type A personality, right? Burning the candle at both ends. I had early childhood trauma. I had trauma from toxins, heavy metals, mold, Lyme. Mold is insidious for turning on that alarm bell. Fire,
Yeah.
fire, fire, fire. And even once you leave the mold, no one's turned off the alarm bells. So the nervous system retraining is absolutely crucial for people who've been
Yeah.
mold. So
Yes.
it's crucial for anybody that wants to get
Yes.
better and stay better, right? So if you're one of
Right.
those that are just flaring or blah, 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 dig deeper. You're either
Yeah.
eating something you're not supposed to, or your nervous system is still a wreck. Like if somebody walks into a room and you startle and you throw what's in your hands and you scream, that's not an appropriate response to somebody walking into the room. And that's kind of what would happen to me, my poor husband and my stepson every single time. And then I would feel this adrenaline coursing through my veins, and it felt toxic and I felt sick. And it was just this vicious cycle. And
Mhm.
Sounds like PTSD.
yeah, oh, absolutely. 110%.
Yeah.
What a blessing it is, because before I wasn't in control of my reactions at all. Like there was no buffer. It was something would
Right.
happen and I was reactive. And I'm
Yes.
not that person. So it would hurt my heart. Then I'd have to apologize, right? Because Karen came out my mouth, and now I have a buffer. Now I can sit back and go, do I really want to respond to this asshole, or do I just walk away? I have a choice,
Seriously.
right?
Yes. Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one, that you do have that choice, that you can, and when you start to look that way, you're able to just not have to fight every fight, like not have to, like you can be like, okay, I'm okay. I don't know what's going on over there. I can choose to address it, or I can just let it go. But it's so empowering.
You let it go. I used to sing that song so much in the beginning of this healing journey to remind myself, right? Let it go.
It's so true. There's so
It
much
is
that
so
needs
true.
to be released, that needs to
Yeah.
be let go, for your own peace of mind, for your sanity, for your health, for
For your nervous system.
to be able to let your light shine.
Yeah.
Some stuff we got to walk through, some stuff you got to do the ayahuasca or whatever, and you got to go into the darkness and you got to do the work. But some stuff is other people's work, and you can get triggered. You can see, as you start to do the work, you're aware, you're like, oh, look at that just triggered me. You're breathing, you're doing your work, and then you're making that decision. Am I going here, or am I just saying no thank you? And
it's so sad because this younger generation, trigger and trauma have become buzzwords galore, right? And a lot of them, they're like, you triggered me. And then they want you to somehow fix their issue, but it's not on you, it's on them. And I was one of those that my life just kept getting smaller and smaller and more constricted and constricted because of all the triggers, until I finally decided to figure out, and what, the only way out is through, right? To hit these triggers head on. Why am I being reactive to this? Because there's usually some little nugget in there, some little truth in there, that if you're willing to look at it, right? But sadly, most, actually, especially this younger generation, they're wanting you to coddle their triggers. And that's not how it works. Those triggers are there for you to look deeper.
Well,
Right.
they don't know that until they have an adult in the room who can point that out for them. Right.
Yeah.
So if the parent has not been willing
For
to
sure.
do the work and self-reflection, then that child will never know that. So Marci and I have a little space around the younger generation, and that's why we do this.
I know, I love it.
Plus, I love their awareness of it. So yeah, they're not everyone's knowing what to do with it, but just the fact that they're looking at it and understanding that that's what happened, that's always the first step, is that awareness.
Absolutely. That pendulum swings from one direction to the other, and then hopefully soon, with that awareness, it'll land somewhere in the middle where people take ownership of their reactions, things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a big deal. So, I'm curious about your perhaps spiritual practice. I know you did mention meditation, and that for some people that's spiritual, others is just breath work. But talk a little bit about that. Marci and I do a lot around the tools. We use heart brain coherence, um, EFT
Meditation,
tapping, meditation, all those
bilateral
things.
tapping.
Um, things that, kids can use in the classroom or parents can use for that matter. So, I know you mentioned some of those in another podcast or so that you've done. So talk about that and how you might use that yourself.
So the tools. Yeah. So I like, so in meditation, I like to focus on having people focus on what's working, right? And the whole gratitude, because that whole
Mm.
vibrational, energy, bringing
Yeah.
things up, it does,
Yes.
they've been, Dr. Joe Dispenza has so much research,
Mm.
real data around this stuff on,
Right.
the attitude of gratitude
Yeah.
and acting as if, right?
Yeah.
So even in the first
Yes.
part of his meditations, he'll talk about, all right, focus on the things that you don't want to act like anymore. I don't want to act like an angry Karen anymore, right? And
Yeah.
then at the end, it's okay, now focus on who it is that you want to be, because if you didn't have that blueprint growing up, right? I was told I was
Yeah.
stupid, fat, ugly, not going to amount to anything, stupid, 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 right? So if I didn't have a blueprint for love, if I didn't have a blueprint for compassion, right? I have to fake it until I make it,
Yeah.
because that wasn't a download that I came with. I I,
Yes.
I did not get that download. So for me, it was to really embody myself in love and compassion and wholeness and
Yeah.
not self-loathing and
Yeah.
critical, you know. Um, so really focusing on what it is that you want, and if whole health, happy, joy, is what you want, seeing yourself that way, right?
Yes.
Huge. So even just saying that, talking like that for just that minute, like I felt my whole energetic body just
Mm.
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You know,
it's a
um,
it's a regular practice for me with from all of that what I've learned through all this is I still every day, many times a day, will just say perfect, whole, complete, perfect, whole, complete. You are perfect, whole, complete. And I continue to do that, even though I'm feeling pretty darn good these days. But right.
you
But
have to.
that is people think, you're kind of crazy. And my daughter has some health issues too. And I'm like, what do you say? You say it all day, perfect, whole, complete, right? And so it's little things like that that we can teach people so that they can feel empowered, which is what you try to do, right? Empower people to not feel helpless in this situation when it feels like you want to kill yourself. Like it's awful. It is
Absolutely.
awful, right? But that's Marci and my genre is to help to empower people who are feeling like they can't take it anymore, right?
Absolutely. You have to. It's no different than brushing your teeth. So just because when your teeth have gotten nice and white and shiny, do you just stop
Yeah.
brushing them?
Yeah.
No. You have to continue to brush them
Yeah.
for maintenance, because like I said,
Right.
again, I got the first 20, I'd say 5 years of my life, horrible programming, right? So in order
Yeah.
to overcome that, it is a daily practice for me to keep those itty bitty shitty committee, thoughts in my head
Yes.
in the background, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, they
Right.
can sneak up and take over in a
Yeah.
blink. So, like I said, I'm
Yeah.
noticing with my sleep deprivation, my defenses are down a little bit, and old
Hmm.
programming is like right there, man, to take the show. And so, thank God for my tools. I think that's the only reason I'm functioning as well as I am right now, is because of the tools and because of the
Yes.
lifestyle that I walk every single day.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so another one of my favorite ones is called a VU, or VU with a push away, right? Because we talk about nervous system retraining, and VU
Yes.
helps work on uh,
Neural pathways.
the vagus nerve.
Oh, yes.
Vagus nerve is,
Yes.
attached and touching everything in our body. And so when we voo or we chant or we hum or we gargle, it helps to stimulate that vagus nerve.
Mhm.
Some of us who have got early childhood trauma and have issues with these toxins, we're also more on the empathic side. So we have a tendency to wear everybody else's energy. And so when you do a voo with a push away, at the same time, you're actually pushing out your own energetic bubble to give yourself more space while doing that toning. So you're going to actually put your hands up by your shoulders and you're going to act like you're pushing a boulder away, like really act like you're pushing it away. The same time you're going, voo. My husband will watch me do that when I'm in the grocery store sometimes, because sometimes I've gotten myself grounded, right? And I'm like ready to turn into
Yes.
all bitch mode because somebody was being inconsiderate. And he'll see me just start pushing out my energetic bubble and taking a breath, and he knows exactly what I'm trying to do. And then I can be the kind, funny, helpful person I want to be, because that's who I want to show up as.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard, especially if I'm taking on everybody else's energy. So that's one of my favorite tools, is the
I love that.
the
That's a
voo
great
to push
one.
away.
We
I
love the
love that one
tools
too.
that anyone can do. You don't need any special equipment. So we got, we got our hands or arms, whatever, we're pushing that out, and just the humming, the speaking, the voo. That's great. I love that. And, as we talk about these, we talk about, finding them later in life for a lot of us. And what we're hoping to do with this podcast, with our nonprofit, is teach the parents, spread it so that it can be shared with young children, so that they don't get brought up in such a toxic environment. But even if there are things, because there's always things, they have their tools. And so they know what to do when they're at school and there's a bully, or when they're at the market and somebody does something, or when whatever, that stuff's going to come, but they're going to have their own, they're empowered to respond from within in a way that's uplifting, rather than causing all the stuff to start pinging all over their nervous system. So
Absolutely. And one of the best ways to get a resilient nervous system from day one birth, get rid of the crying it out method. That is one of the biggest atrocities that we've done to this generation. And I am included. The first time I heard about it, and the person who was speaking on the vagus nerve, and they said the fight or flight, but there's also a fawn and freeze. And that's basically what a baby's doing when you no longer hear them cry. They've cried it out to the point where their nervous system has shut down. Nobody's coming, and they go into freeze. So if we want to raise healthier, more resilient kids, don't let them cry it out.
Yeah. And there's so much research and new ideas around that, around the immediate bonding, with the holding all the time. And then also just the gentle parenting, which we do have a gentle parenting expert coming on soon. And I'm excited to talk to them about that, because having raised my kids, almost 30, starting, they're getting pushing 30, so upper 20s. So it was so different then. And it was way better than what I'm sure my parents were taught, which was so much worse. But so we do better. But when I watch, I love to watch the reels of moms using gentling parenting with their kids, and then just watching that dynamic. It's fascinating, and it's so beautiful. So I love that. I love that we're helping to not raise kids with unnecessary
thought
trauma.
that we're going to spoil babies, infants.
Spoil an
it's
infant,
insane.
yes.
It's insane.
Right. By
Every other
feeding
culture
it
out
or
there
picking
has
it
got their
up.
babies on them 24/7. And it's like,
Yeah.
our generation can't wait to get them to the sitters or in preschool so we can get back to work. Our whole, the attachment styles, that's a whole nother conversation. And
Well, there's more and more information on the vagus nerve coming. Like every day there's something new. It's like it's been there all along, right? But somehow, I think Joe Dispenza, he's my hero, but he's done so much work around this. But now it's like everyday things. Marci and I did a workshop last summer with some kids, and the idea that you're just walking up to someone and giving them a hug, because teenagers, they love to hug each other, right? You're pressing on the vagus nerve of that other human being. And so you are releasing all the love hormones, right? And so that one simple thing you can teach people, right? And that's what you're doing with when you're holding your baby 24/7, right? Oh my God. Yeah. The whole Vegas thing is remarkable. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but it is on us moms. Our babies get our nervous system's regulation from our mothers, and so far your
Yeah.
mothers are unregulated. I was an extremely anxious, I was undiagnosed Lyme disease. I was a smoker. I was a hot friggin' mess, and it's no wonder my poor kid has had the issues that he's had growing up, and I didn't know what I didn't know. I was doing the best that I could
Right.
with the tools that I
Exactly.
had.
In the system we live in too, because in other nations, moms get maternity
Support.
leave like for like a year in some
Yeah.
places, so they can just bond with that child, and dads too, so they can be part of that process. And because you've got this family, whether it's mom, dad, two moms, two dads, whatever, you've got support, you've got the bonding, you've got the opportunity in the most probably the most crucial year of their life to give them all the love and all the connection, and build your whole relationship is based in that, and that you need me, I'm here. And but if you have to
Absolutely.
go back to work in 2 weeks, how does that work?
Absolutely. Yeah. And
It
then you
doesn't.
put chronic illness on top of it, autoimmune issues. I just had a
All the
baby. So
stress.
whatever little energy I had
Yeah.
left in my body, that little parasite took it from me. Right.
Yeah.
So it was a no wonder that I, just showing up the way that I did when he was little.
Yeah.
If I could do it all over again, my God, I would do it in a heartbeat. And that's part of the
Yeah.
reason why I talk about these things too, and like to come on
Yeah.
shows like this, is because we've got to change this. The school
Yes.
shootings, the anxiety, the suicide, like all these
Oh,
things are
Yeah.
so preventable.
they
Yes.
are. They are.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. They are.
Yeah.
That's why we're so passionate about this work too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I know you did talk about suicide, and I know you have had this issue for yourself. You talk very openly about that. Um so this is a difficult thing. Marci and I, we have done our best to have discussions about this with, local schools. We do suicide training for nonprofits. We actually, Marci and I made a movie during COVID called Never Alone. And it was based on a true story of a teen that had a suicide attempt during COVID because of the lockdown, the lack of connection, the lack of all those things, right? So um yeah, I think there are so many people who just want to, like, okay, let's just not talk about that, right? Like right, like if someone's going to do that, they're going to do that, and I just don't believe that. I just don't, right?
Oh,
um
absolutely. I was talking with a group of therapists. I wish I could do more advocacy that way, talking to therapists, because if the therapist, I was in the psych ward for the first time when I was 15 for my first suicide attempt. If anybody had been had a background in Lyme, mold, right? Toxins, brain inflammation, food sensitivities, how different my life would be. Instead, they called me crazy. And the minute you get that label slapped on you, holy shit, is it hard to scrub off. I wanted to start another movement. So first was the Karen movement. This one is a new one saying, let's stop calling people crazy. Instead, let's say your brain inflammation is showing, because really that's what's happening. Again,
yeah,
healthy, normal people don't act that way. They don't think about suicide 50 times a day. There's something very real going on, and they're starting to find out more and more that it's just not a imbalance of neurotransmitters. Like that's
Yeah.
old paradigm, thank
Yeah.
God, going out the
yes,
window.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's brilliant where we're coming with science these days, and what they're
yeah,
starting to figure out how the body really works.
yeah,
Yeah.
The whole low fat fad, back in the 80s, which was causing so much more depression and anxiety, because fat cholesterol, healthy cholesterol, is needed for
for your
hormone
brain.
production,
Right.
your brain. Yeah. So then we take this away, and then nobody's working right. We don't know why. So it's just crazy to me. But yeah, if somebody would have known then, so like I said, like talking to people, therapists, right? If you've got someone who's suicidal in your office, start digging deeper. Do they have an infection? Do they have heavy metals? Do they have,
Right.
food sensitivities that are triggering this? Food dyes are notorious for causing like ADHD type symptoms in kids. It's insane. You get them off the artificial flavorings and preservatives and the coloring, and like all their behavioral stuff goes out the window. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. All these things are connected.
Absolutely.
Right.
Everything's connected. Yeah. That is the truth of it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. I think we're out
Yeah.
of time, but I want to have Heather back on another day. I really want to dig into this whole sleep apnea thing
I do
that you
too.
that
Yeah,
you
because I
are
think
going
so many
through right
people are
now.
dealing with that.
Well, and I'm
Yeah.
Yes.
trying some alternative. So again, I'm trying to get to the root cause, right? It's
Yeah.
really easy to slap me on a CPAP machine and say
Yeah.
off you go, but I'm like, no. I know I have a deviated septum,
Mhm.
bad. So I think that has something to do with it. I know there's some soft palate stuff going on up top, and so I've got
Mhm.
like a mouth guard type thing that's supposed to help you structurally. So
Mhm.
there's some things that we'll be diving in deeper, but I've got to do another sleep study, and I'm waiting for those results to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
give me like another month or so, and I will have
Let's talk about
I'll
sleep.
start
Yes.
unraveling that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're so
Heather,
grateful.
tell
Yes.
us where we can find you. Tell people where how to look you up, how to find your information and you.
Everywhere I'm the limeboss.com. That's Lyme, like Lyme disease, not like we're making margaritas. And definitely come check out my podcast. I've had some, it's not Lyme related per se. I'd say 1 out of every 7 shows is Lyme related. The rest
Mhm.
of it is kids, autoimmune, cancer, heavy metals,
All
mold.
right.
So it's because once you get to that root cause, right, you can put in any diagnosis and
Yeah.
and all be helped from the same type of stuff. So I've had some really big, incredible names from across the alternative health space, and I'm
Ah,
loving
awesome.
what I'm bringing to the world right now.
Okay.
Awesome.
We're
Love
gonna
it.
listen to that. All right. Thanks, Heather. You
Thank
take
Thank
you.
care of
you.
yourself. Get some sleep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And now for a moment about meditation and how it can help you and your family to self regulate and mindfully return to a place of calm and centeredness. Our Core Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. Meditation is just one of these powerful tools. And through a special partnership with Donna Appadoni, we have created a group of meditations available only on our platform and via Donna's own website. Here's Donna.
What am I hiding? What is taking up space? What is filling my time? What fails to fulfill? What leaves me empty? Hi, I'm Donna Appadoni, and I'm the person who writes and produces meditations that are used by Cour Experience. Sometimes we forget to let go. We hold on too tightly to things, or we hold on to things that aren't important, or maybe things that are no longer useful. Sometimes we hold on to people who are no longer really very good for us. This meditation suggests that we look closely at what we can release, what we can get rid of. It's a little bit like cleaning out your closet. Once you get rid of what doesn't work for you anymore, then you can bring in something new. It's a relief to release. Remember, wherever you are right now, you can do anything you set your mind to do. I make room for purpose, for meaning. I prepare for richness and fullness to enter. I am open. I am here. I am love.
Donna's book, called Drive Time Meditations, is a collection of 183 of her purpose-driven motivators. Drive Time Meditations is available on Amazon.
Thank you for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast. You can find us at coreexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our meditation segment is produced by Donna Appadone with music from Scott Holmes. The full collection of meditations is in Donna's book, Drive Time Meditations, available on Amazon and at donnaappadone.com. Thanks to Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, producers, or financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. The Warrior Parent Podcast is a production of Cour Experience. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.